Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing. This episode may contain topics of murder, suicide, domestic violence, or sexual assault. Viewing discretion is advised.
On November 30th, 2021, the small community of Oxford, Michigan, was shaken by a tragedy that would spark national conversations about responsibility, warning signs, and the role of parents in preventing violence. This is the story of Ethan Crumbley, a case defined not only by what happened, but by the countless moments when someone could have stopped it. Ethan Crumbley wasn't known as a loud or disruptive student. Classmates described him as quiet, someone who mostly kept to himself. But beneath that silence, a storm was building. Teachers had long noticed Ethan struggling emotionally. He often worked alone, avoided social interaction, and showed signs of increasing isolation. But nothing yet suggested violence. That would soon change. Just 4 days before the shooting, Ethan's father purchased a 9mm Sig Sauer handgun, legally. Online, Ethan posted a picture of the gun with the caption, "Just got my new beauty today." His mother, Jennifer, commented publicly, "Mom and Son Day testing out his new Christmas present." Authorities would later argue that this weapon, stored improperly at home, was easily accessible to Ethan, one of the key failures that led to the tragedy. On the morning of November 30th, everything changed. A teacher discovered Ethan searching for ammunition on his phone during class. The school contacted his mother. Instead of alarm, she texted her son, "LOL, I'm not mad. You have to learn not to get caught." The next warning sign came just hours later. A teacher found a disturbing drawing on Ethan's desk. A handgun, a bullet, a bleeding figure. The words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." This time, Ethan was called to the office for an emergency meeting with his parents. School officials urged the Crumbleys to take him home immediately. The parents refused. They also never told the school that Ethan had access to a firearm. And the school, lacking information about the weapon, allowed him to return to class. He had the gun in his backpack the entire time. Let's rewind for a minute. When he drew that picture, he actually wrote, "The thoughts won't stop, help me." He is literally asking for help and no one does anything? They let him return to class? If anyone would have taken just a minute to really look at the drawing, all this may have been prevented. At 12:51 p.m., Ethan walked into a hallway at Oxford High School and opened fire. 4 students were killed. 7 others were injured. The attack ended only when Ethan laid down his weapon and surrendered to deputies. He showed no resistance. Within minutes, the world would learn his name, and the questions about how this could have been prevented began immediately. Ethan was charged as an adult with multiple counts of murder and terrorism causing death. He later pleaded guilty to all charges. But this case didn't end with him. For the first time in American history, the parents of a school shooter were criminally charged for their alleged negligence, specifically for ignoring warning signs and failing to secure the firearm. James and Jennifer Crumbley were arrested days later after briefly disappearing. Their trials became national news, raising critical questions. What is a parent's legal responsibility to secure a firearm? How many warnings must be ignored before accountability becomes criminal? Could this tragedy have been prevented if even one adult had acted sooner? In 2023 and 2024, Ethan's parents were both convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Prosecutors argued they had every opportunity to stop the shooting. They bought the gun. They failed to secure it. They minimized Ethan's mental health warnings. And they refused to remove him from school on the very day the shooting occurred. The case set a legal precedent. No longer could parents assume they were shielded from responsibility when a child commits a violent act with a weapon they supplied. Meanwhile, Ethan himself received a life sentence without parole, the same outcome as many adult mass shooters. Oxford, Michigan, continues to heal. Memorials, scholarships, and community programs now stand in honor of the victims. I want to make sure we highlight the victims in this case. The following are the ones who tragically lost their lives that day. Tate Meyer, 16. Tate was a standout athlete, known especially for football and wrestling. Friends and coaches described him as a leader, the kind of kid you want on your team, in your life, and in your community. A talented linebacker, hard worker with a strong competitive spirit, considered a role model for younger athletes, died while reportedly trying to help others during the shooting. A petition later called for Oxford's football stadium to be renamed in his honor, a reflection of the impact he had on his school. Madison Baldwin, 17. Madison, the oldest victim, was known for her artistic talent and academic ambition. Her family described her as a gifted artist, a strong student excited about college, a beautiful, smart, sweet girl with so much to give. She loved reading, painting, and spending time with her siblings. She had recently been accepted to multiple colleges and was preparing to graduate early. Hannah St. Juliana, 14. Hannah was a freshman with a bright, optimistic personality. She played on Oxford's volleyball and basketball teams. Those who knew her described her as positive and full of energy, always smiling, someone who loved her friends and teammates deeply. She had just played in her first high school basketball game the night before the shooting and was excited for the season. Justin Schilling, 17. Justin was known for his kindness, intelligence, and dedication. He worked at a local McDonald's, played on the bowling team, and was respected by classmates. He was described as mature beyond his years, responsible and hardworking, someone who always made everyone feel noticed and appreciated. Justin died the day after the shooting, succumbing to his injuries. Seven others were wounded, some critically. Their identities and medical details have been kept private in many cases to protect their families, but the community has continued to support them with vigils, donations, and long-term recovery efforts. Oxford came together in powerful ways. Candlelight vigils, temporary memorials at the school, scholarships in the victims' names, athletic events dedicated to them, foundations created to promote safer schools and mental health awareness. The victims are remembered not for the way their lives ended, but for who they were: talented, kind, motivated, and loved. In the aftermath of the Oxford High School shooting, many people asked the same heartbreaking question: how could this have been prevented? The truth is painful because the warnings were there, and at almost every step, someone could have intervened. Ethan Crumbley showed signs of deep emotional distress for months. He was isolated, struggling, and sending clear signals that something was wrong. His drawings, his online posts, his fascination with weapons, and his cries for help were not subtle. They were visible, they were serious, and they were ignored. His teachers tried. They reported disturbing behavior. They called meetings. They raised alarms. But without the full picture, without knowing a gun had been purchased and was accessible to him, there was only so much they could do. His parents had the clearest chance to stop everything. They bought the gun. They failed to secure it. They dismissed signs of crisis. When the school begged them to take Ethan home that morning, they refused. Whether through denial, negligence, or fear of consequences, their inaction closed the final window to protect their son and everyone around him. And Ethan himself was lost in a storm of isolation and untreated mental health struggles. He did not reach out for help. He did not trust anyone with his pain. Instead, he retreated further into darkness until the worst possible moment. This tragedy wasn't the result of one decision. It was the result of many decisions, made by many people, stacked on top of each other until the only thing left was heartbreak. But recognizing these failures is how we move forward. Because prevention doesn't begin when a weapon appears. Prevention begins months earlier, when a student shows signs of loneliness or withdrawal, when a teenager posts alarming content online, when a parent knows a gun is in the house, when a school sees a pattern instead of isolated incidents. when a community chooses to take every warning seriously. No single person could have solved everything, but someone, a parent, a counselor, a friend, a system, could have changed the outcome. This story is not just about one shooter. It's about what happens when the pieces of a young person's life fall apart, and no one puts them back together in time. If anything good can come from this tragedy, let it be this: a reminder that mental health is not optional, that safe firearm storage saves lives, that warning signs matter, and that stepping in, even when it feels uncomfortable, can be the difference between a moment of concern and a lifetime of grief. We honor the 4 students whose lives were stolen. We support the survivors who continue to heal. And we learn from the moments when help could have reached someone who desperately needed it. Because tragedies like this are not inevitable. They are preventable. And prevention begins with all of us. No one should struggle alone. If you're feeling overwhelmed, hopeless, anxious, or not like yourself, reaching out isn't a weakness. It's strength. Talking to someone early can prevent things from getting worse. You can get help by reaching out to a trusted friend or family member, talking to a school counselor, teacher, or coach, contacting a mental health professional or therapist, calling or texting your country's crisis hotline, using online chat services if speaking feels too hard. If you're in the United States, you can call or text 988 for immediate support. If you're outside the U.S., check your local mental health hotline. You matter. Your feelings matter. And help is always closer than you think. Here is the dad joke of the episode. I don't know why I like puns so much. It's just how I roll. Until next time, stay safe and watch your back. This is True Crime Dad signing off.